Pennsylvania has entered the artificial intelligence chat with $90 billion in investment, and it's rewiring what we mean by tech jobs. Last month, Amazon, with Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro, announced what was then the state's record $20 billion investment. The record lasted a month. At the Energy and Innovation Summit in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania Senator Dave McCormick and who's who of big tech giants dropped a $90 billion mic. Google, AWS, Palantir, Anthropic, Constellation, a slew of investments in the Keystone State. Like much of the country, Pennsylvania as a state was a non-entity in technology conversation in the 2010s. The activity was happening in Philadelphia in the southeastern part of the state and Pittsburgh. Two cities I love, but that did not coordinate much. We'll come back to that in a second. But for now, a quick rundown of the $90 billion. $25 billion from Blackstone, data centers, $3 billion in a hydropower reboot, Google and Brookfield. The $25 billion in AI infrastructure, an AI server farm in Lancaster with CoreWeave, $6 billion, and a dozen other initiatives like coal plants flipping to data hubs, nuclear investment. These are a version of what we mean by tech jobs in the future. It speaks to local economies around the country, how they will adapt if they will at all. After that Amazon coverage, there were connections to coverage that we had technically have done in Virginia around data centers. We've reported on environmental fights about the data centers that would be invested in Pennsylvania. Lots of construction jobs, not necessarily a ton of long-term jobs, and mostly big, loud, energy-intensive buildings. My dear friend Stephen Babcock wrote a piece for Technically, similarly on this thread of how AI jobs look different than the tech jobs that we understood in the 2010s. Running nuclear reactors, wiring a 300-acre server farm, pouring concrete. The next gold rush looks a lot more like steel mills and power plants than hoodies and ping pong tables. Let me put it plainly. This is good for Pittsburgh. This is good for Pennsylvania. This is good for the United States. But let me call out three things to watch. One, it mattered that both Democrat Governor of Pennsylvania, Josh Shapiro, and Republican Senator Dave McCormick were deeply involved. Large infrastructure investments of any kind just need stability. Anything that is deemed as a partisan act is not a good bet, especially in this political climate. In your state, get any kind of bipartisan commitment to anything getting done. Two, we're going to have big conversations about what we're willing to build. Housing, data centers, nuclear reactors, hydropower. There's a new generation of NIMBYism and yes in my backyard fights that are going to be play out. Three, and this is very relevant for Pennsylvania, but it's a lesson for anyone. Pennsylvania does not yet have a true statewide identity. Everybody knows this is a Pittsburgh-led, Western Pennsylvania-dominated conversation. Pennsylvania has a long history of energy production. It was always largely dominated in the western part of the state. Most consumers, and the vast majority of the state's economy, though, comes from Philadelphia. We technically want to play a part, but every state's going to have a conversation of how much can any given metro center, any given state level group work together. We technically report in a bunch of states and cities. I've been involved in conversations around the country. I'm here to tell you that everyone fights. There is no place that doesn't do that. And you come together to get something done. Right now, a bunch of Pennsylvania leaders say they can.